Welcome to Chai Pe Kharcha, where we have conversations on personal finance among four NRI professionals working at tech firms. Think of these like water cooler chats you have at the office. Only this time, you will have Ishan, Madhvesh, Rohit, and Siddharth as colleagues you will be listening into. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer. We are not financial experts. The content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult with a qualified financial professional if you need financial advice.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Chai Pe Kharcha. Today, we have a very special episode because we have a special guest who's joining us. I would like to welcome Aditi Mittal. She is an investment advisor who focuses specifically on NRIs and expats, and she's currently associated with Manulife Financial Advisors out here in Singapore. Welcome, Aditi. Very glad to have you.
Hi, Rohit. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to talk to you and give you some insights on, how NRIs can benefit from investments in Singapore.
Awesome. Really looking forward to it. As usual, we have our gang of Siddharth, Madhvesh. Ishan is traveling, so jealous of that, but he will join us in a future episode. But we have Aditi. We are really looking forward to learning from your experience and your stories. So let's just jump in. So, Aditi, you have been in Singapore for a while and you're a professional financial advisor. I guess one question that we often hear from people that we speak to is, I don't know if I really need an advisor. Why can't I just do this on my own? So my first question to you would be, how does an advisor actually help people, and
Hmm.
why is it more important for NRIs to engage with an advisor? And then what are the differences between the different types of advisors that we have? Because we hear about financial advisors, investment
Hmm.
advisors, insurance advisors, right? So if you could throw some
Yeah.
light on what an advisor does, why
Hmm.
we should have an advisor, and what are the different types of advisors that are out there.
Yeah. So, Rohit, you rightly pointed out that, people say that we don't need an advisor, we can manage on our own. And I have come across those objections. I hear this daily from people. And
Mhm.
see, it depends. Y- Financial advisor is like having a your own family doctor, right?
Mhm.
You may not need them at current point of time in your life, but at some point in your life when you'll grow old, you'll need somebody to manage your wealth, right? If I
Yeah.
simply define a financial advisor's job, it is basically to help you manage your money more effectively.
Mhm.
Okay. And they can help you see different scenarios, which can be a blind spot for somebody. Like, for instance, like people don't realize, how important insurance is in their portfolio. And trust me, I meet people who think term insurance is just money going into the drain. So imagine, like, when you meet such people who have put 90% of their money in investments, in equities, but very less, to the risk management. So for those people, you actually everybody requires that kind of a balancing act, their financial planning. So don't look at it from the perspective of just investments or just insurance. You need both. You have to plan better. Maybe a third party can give you those perspectives and kind of help you plan for these scenarios. So this is what a should be a job of an advisor. Not many are doing that kind of work. That is also true.
Yeah.
So yeah, and to your question that, there is always a mix of designations. Somebody say that I'm an investment advisor, somebody's an insurance advisor. So I'll just give you a very, an overview of how it works in Singapore. So technically, there is the designation is financial services consultant. Okay, and now to practice as a financial advisor, I need to take some mandatory exams. So
Mhm.
once I take those mandatory exam, I am licensed by Monetary Authority of Singapore. But till then, I'm only able to practice in insurance with insurance solutions, which is why I kind of position myself as an investment advisor.
Right.
So So basically, you can imagine if somebody has taken exams, extra exams to go to that extent, they are kind of, bent towards investment more than insurance. Now,
Makes sense.
the insurance specialist, I would say, would be people who have been not just life insurance and health insurance. I mean, even I can do that. Term insurance is like a commodity right now, but
So,
but there are situations where insurance solutions can be very useful, like legacy and estate planning, where people who have really lot of money, they are
mhm.
not worried about wealth accumulation, they are worried about wealth preservation, right?
Right.
So for them, insurance solutions, a different kind of insurance solutions can help to risk fence. So such people, I would say, would be more of an insurance specialist, like who
Okay.
can use same insurance solution in different scenarios. Yeah. So I hope it's clear now,
Can,
the
can I
designations and how they work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
can I jump in for
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
sorry to interrupt. Aditi, this is something that we had discussed in our last episode also, and it plays off what you mentioned just now. How do we, so this is a question, how do we identify a good investment advisor? Or let me phrase it another way. How do we identify an investment advisor that is suitable for us?
Hmm.
Is there a guideline? How do we?
I also want to add a question to Siddharth's thing.
Hmm.
And when we also choose an advisor, it's basically partnering with the advisor in terms of our investment journey. And I feel like
Yeah.
trust is an important component in that. So can you also speak on that as you answer the questions?
Okay. So yeah, for me, see, of course, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Okay,
Hmm.
because there are like 3,000 plus consultants out there in Singapore, right?
Oh,
What a client should be also looking for is somebody. So I feel, see, firstly, money is a very psychological thing. Not everybody is investment savvy. Not everybody is okay with short term, speculation, and that some people are okay holding their money for long term. Some people are not. So I
right.
think an advisor who understands your concerns, who understand that where are you coming from, and have maybe don't have the similar wavelength, but at least are not forcing you in a certain direction.
Right.
I would, I mean, see, their job is to guide you, but still, this money is yours. So I cannot force you to lock it in for 20 years, let's say, when you're not comfortable,
Right.
right? So I think it has to be like what Madhvesh has said. It has to be a collaborative work, because it's going to be a long journey. So you
Mhm.
must like that person also, because investment, especially, it's a lot of servicing. Like for me, I have to, review my client's portfolio every quarterly or sometimes half yearly, depending on how the portfolio is. So it's you, I will be meeting them or they will be meeting them very often. So we should like each other. It should not be like, oh my God, now I have to see this person, right? So one thing is that you must like that person. Then
Right.
comes their philosophy about money, how they think about wealth. Does it match with your concepts of wealth and philosophy or not? Third,
Yeah.
are they adding any value to your portfolio? Or even, yeah, I mean, like, for instance, at least for me, I do a lot of research. I am genuinely interested in investments and, like, researching about industries, how the market is going, and macroeconomy in general. So are they bringing you that kind of information, like every meeting that every time you meet them, are they adding any value in that front, at least, like, giving you some kind of extra bits where the economy is going, how the interest rates are going to move up and down. So all this, they should be on their toes. So
Mhm.
these are the certain few things that one must look at, before like jumping into, signing anything.
Yeah. So it would be fair to say that it's almost like a matchmaking kind of a situation, right? You have to talk to a few people before you will be able to actually identify one that is most suitable. And
Yeah.
it's not so much the case that whether someone is a good advisor or not. It's more like, do the client and the advisor have a mutual fit in terms of all the things that you mentioned? They like each other, they have like a clear perspective on money and wealth and investments, and they have that sort of matching wavelength, if I may call it, and then you kind
Yeah.
of head with that relationship, and hopefully that works out over the long term. And you obviously you need to
Yeah,
evaluate performance and that kind of stuff, right?
exactly. Yes, that's one way to, I mean, you rightly put very nicely put it that it's a combination of all those things. But I would also say, like, people go around a lot, shop a lot.
Hmm.
Clients also, like, for me, like what I've seen, like people shop around a lot. What
Okay.
happens after that is they go into this analysis paralysis situation where they end up with nothing and they
Mhm.
are not able to make any decision. So it's also has to be some kind of leap of faith that you have to take with one person. So not that person will not be like a will know everything, but at least if they are meeting your 70% of your expectation, you just go with them and see, like, experiment. You need to experiment, like just how you do with your stocks. So you need to
Yeah,
like do a little bit of experiment here.
makes sense. And is there a resource that is available where a everyday person like myself might be able to see who are like 50 to 100 advisors that are there in Singapore, and then I can maybe read up a little bit about them, and then I did shortlist that, okay, these are the people that I want to talk to. Are there resources like this available?
Unfortunately, no.
Hmm.
There is no like a list of advisors that you can find. But like for instance, if you want to particularly check one advisor, you
Hmm.
can go on of check on their credentials, not much more, but just credentials as to what are they licensed for. Then you can go on MAS website and check on their name, and you'll see where they are working. So basically, it's kind of a due diligence. Okay, on the advisor, you can see what exams they have taken, what are they licensed to do in Singapore. But that's about it. Everything else you need to kind of research on your own.
Okay, makes sense. So I think like just general Google it or use LinkedIn. So those would be the places to try and find a list of
Yeah,
users, and then you can kind of shortlist based on your own criteria and then start reaching out to them.
yeah.
Got it. Perfect.
One more
Aditi, I have
question
one
for me.
question here.
Yeah,
I
Hmm.
okay. Madhvesh, go.
Yeah, yeah, well understood in terms of like how difficult it is to find the right advisor. But in terms of numbers, are there anything that we need to look out for which will help us to compare, let's say, a couple of advisors? Like, is it in terms of their portfolio value or the number of clients they service in a particular area, etc.?
See, I mean, of course, if they have, an X number of experience in a particular industry, that could be, work in this industry because most, like, lot of retention rate in this industry is really high, right? So if, let's say, if somebody is working in this industry for the past 20 years, so imagine like they must be really resilient in that sense. But I'm not sure would that be an indication of or an indicator of how good they are. Because at that point of time, imagine somebody with 20 years of experience would also have a portfolio of about 1,000 clients. So how well they can monitor your portfolio is also kind of questionable here.
Hmm.
So again, it's a very gray area in that sense. Again, you have to go by your gut, and maybe referral would be something that is rather more reliable technique rather than going by yourself. If somebody has
Correct, that
has
makes
has
sense.
an
Yeah.
advisor, and then yeah, and then if you're hearing good things about that advisor, of that advisor, then you can just go ahead with them.
Makes sense. Got it. So I think it's safe to say that you have to try out talking to a few different people before you can finally find someone who you're comfortable with, and a
Right.
referral,
And
as it does
I
in
guess
all other.
also, I guess, like, for instance, you can also do something just top of my mind here is that I create a lot of model portfolios, right, for my clients before when I'm talking to them, I show them a basket of mutual funds based on their time horizon, risk appetite, and all that, and how it has performed, the portfolio has performed in the last 10 years, and all that. So all these things can also come into play. Like, for instance, I've also spoken to advisors before I got into this field in Singapore, and I haven't seen anything like that before, like just a model portfolio or a simulation of some kind, or showing me like, why am I choosing this industry versus that? Or let's say let's say technology mein hi, there are multiple mutual funds, but why am I going with this and not that? So
Right.
question that. So you have to really question your advisor's, choice. And I mean, if they are giving you that upfront, then you have to really value it.
Right. Got it. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting tip. That's something I definitely do when I engage with, like, I do engage with an advisor in India. Basically, the approach I follow, like, I will question every single thing he tells me, and then
Yeah.
the good thing is he's always able to convince me with his logic, which is why I have been working with him for several years. So, but yes, I have seen the power of that approach.
Before we move on to another topic, last advisor wala question.
Hmm.
And this is just out of curiosity. I don't think there is a right answer. But Aditi, as Rohit mentioned, he has an advisor in India. I have
Hmm.
one in India. And of course, you are based in Singapore. The question is, ki, what are the advantages or disadvantages of working with someone in
Hmm.
India as opposed to working with the advisor who's not in India?
So I also have an advisor in India. See,
Okay.
first thing
Wow.
is nobody can manage even I can't manage my own portfolio fully. I need
Hmm.
to automate some part of it or outsource it to somebody, right? Because I'm not like trading on everyday basis. And for to be honest, like I have not researched on India mutual funds.
Hmm.
Investment is really vast field. So if you are bringing performance, you better be expert in particular market, or you kind of you have to give your full time in researching different market sectors and all that. So it takes up a lot of your time,
Yeah.
right? So India thing, that's why I have kind of outsourced it to somebody, because I'm not able to do that here as well. Sorry, so your question was whether it's better to have an advisor, or what are the pros and cons of having an advisor or not, right?
In
Any
India versus in a foreign country.
correct. Any as
um
an NRI, uh,
hmm.
do we have two advisors, one in India, one abroad? Yeah, assuming that our portfolio is split across the two places or across multiple geographies, या फिर we just focus on one.
No, I think you definitely should have two advisors, because the India one would not be very much familiar with the offshore markets and offshore mutual funds. Like how I am not familiar with India mutual funds. I am aware of India ka economy and everything, right? Macroeconomy of India, I know. But
Hmm.
what mutual funds to choose, I don't know that, right? So similarly, I know offshore wise which mutual funds to go for. And that's why I said, like, just tying to the earlier thing that I said, that you need to have advisor who knows their shit. Like, if they are in Singapore, they should know which markets to go for, which mutual funds to go for. So it definitely makes sense to have an advisor here as well. Second
Hmm.
point is, for NRIs, Singapore has different, so NRIs here would have different concerns, right? So firstly, currency depreciation is something that people should look into. Now,
Yeah.
an advisor back in India would not be able to guide you on that. They would, of course, say, ki, "Arey, just put it in India market." But
Hmm.
if an advisor here would always recommend you to keep your dollars here and have a portfolio here, just to also kind of diversify your portfolio outside India. Abhi aap socho, like all your wealth, if you are putting in India, your
Hmm.
concentration risk is so high. Like, so you
Yeah.
need to also kind of diversify to other geographies, other sectors, which your India advisor would not be able to advise you on. So
Hmm.
currency risk that I mentioned, that comes into play. The offshore options also come into play. Third thing, I will tell you something which is very specific to a certain segment of NRIs. Like some NRIs, like Indians who have become citizens here, right, in Singapore.
Hmm.
Now, in most probability, they will go back to India at some point in time, like maybe after retirement, 50, 60 k back, they will go back to India. Like most Indians have that thing that, they will retire back in India. But imagine like they're Singapore citizens. Something
Hmm.
happens to them. And if they have not written any will, so Singapore may, after you die, all your asset, including your investments, your bank accounts, everything gets seized and it gets distributed by the government under the it's called intestate law, succession law. So you have to agar planned it out with your financial advisor.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
This is the end of part 1 of the episode with Aditi. We will continue next week with part 2. Thank you for listening in and stay tuned.